All right, let's return now to local politics. The Occupy Luthuli House campaign marching on ANC headquarters here in Johannesburg today. Professor Sipho Seepe is a political commentator. He's also advised government in the past and joins Newsnight from Pretoria. Professor Seepe, good evening to you. First of all, what do we know about this particular movement and just how much influence might it have?
Well, I don't think it will have much influence. First of all, it's a movement that started only recently, but its message is very clear. It's a message that has been carried by a number of members of the ANC, and normally we talk about the members who are disgruntled. But why it will not carry much weight is because it doesn't seem to have support of structures. The real political work in the ANC about whether you appoint the leadership or remove it must be done, and it's often done in the branches. So if you don't have support of the branches, all you can do is to howl from outside. And it appears that these groupings have chosen not to fight the battle in the branches. This is why the Women's League is actually calling them cowards, because at the level of branches, that's where there is a need for persuasion. That's where the real battle of ideas comes in. If one were to look at the success of the people like Julius Malema in removing the former president Thabo Mbeki, what they did was to make sure that they swell the ranks of the branches and make sure that they steer them in a particular direction. But when you look at this, you see the main structures of the ANC being opposed to this grouping.
Does it have the potential to grow at all if it perhaps solidifies a little further?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the real challenge is making sure that you understand how the ANC works. And until such time that you are able to win favors within the branches and you are able to consolidate your position within the branches, because ultimately it is the branches that are the core and the basic structure of the organization, and those are the ones that will go to a conference and make a determination on the way forward. And this grouping seems to have lost that battle. So what they have decided to do is that instead of doing a real political work, they've chosen to go into political grandstanding.
Having said that, it's been a fairly difficult weekend for the ANC, Professor Seepe. You've had the planning phases of this march, which did result in some chaos and confusion on the streets of Johannesburg today. At the same time, you've had the ANC toing and froing over the Minister Zwane announcement on probing banks. First the denial and then strong words from the presidency and the ANC. Do you think he can realistically stay in the cabinet?
Well, I think he will stay for as long as the ANC wills it so. But there is no doubt that the ANC as a factional party is failing to manage those factions. It has always been factions within the ANC, and the ANC has succeeded in the past to manage them. And it's understandable. But what is missing is now a new message. Even after these elections, one would have thought that the ANC would start moving with haste to try to say, we have lost, but this is the direction that we're going to take. Instead, they have decided to go into the process of analysis. But you do need analysis, but at the same time, you need to remind the people that in as much as you may have lost the metros, there is still a large percentage of South Africans who support the ANC. It is supported by 54%, and the next party is a DA with 26%. And there's a major gap between that, and the ANC is not able to even indicate that it may have lost those metros, but it is not out.
And just finally, that was one battle that the ANC was fighting this weekend. Then you had Paul Mashatile, the ANC's leader here in Gauteng, saying, and I quote in part, "The excruciating pain we're experiencing is largely self-inflicted. We became complacent to a point where we believed our own propaganda, that we would rule for eternity." He goes on to say, "We falsely believed that South Africans owed us their votes and that they have no other choice but to vote for the ANC. A fallacious belief indeed." That's a very strong statement coming from the Gauteng branch of the ANC, is it not?
Well, I don't think it is only the statement that comes from the ANC. I think that from the ANC in Gauteng, it also comes from the NGC of the ANC. There is an issue of the ANC talks about the sense of complacency, sense of incumbency, and what they have done here is that they've taken the voters for granted. So Mashatile is simply echoing what the ANC has actually been saying since last year, but it has not acted on that. That is where the challenge is. So we need to also to reflect on all those statements, not to take them selectively. But the question is, even those members of the ANC who are disgruntled, the question that must be asked is that what have they done before the elections? Were they also participating in the structures to make sure that the ANC returns with a majority, or were they simply onlookers? So the real position of the ANC and the Constitution is that the members will defend the unity and the integrity of the ANC, and I don't see members of the ANC doing that. Even those who are protesting outside the Luthuli House, they should have actually looked at their own Constitution. And some of them argue that they've written letters, but the letters are simply letters. What you need is to convince the people who matter, and the people who matter are members of the branches.
Professor Sipho Seepe, thank you very much indeed, talking to us from Pretoria, exploring the divisions within the ANC.